Mm. No, 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 no. Oh, oh, oh my God. I just had this awful dream that Nintendo hadn't released a new Mario Kart game in 11 years. What the fuck? Since 2014, two things have remained constant, being disappointed in politicians and Mario Kart 8. Released on May 30th of that year, it became the top-selling game on the Wii U, which is sort of like being the most popular Kmart. But even though the sales of Mario Kart 8 had a low ceiling thanks to the Wii U's abysmal performance, Nintendo supported it with DLC, adding 16 tracks to the pre-existing 32, giving it a healthy 48. Not a bad number, especially with how elaborate some of these courses are. And when the sinking ship that was the Wii U was abandoned in 2017, one of the first games to be ported over to the Switch was Mario Kart 8, given the always classy subtitle, Deluxe. Everyone knows Deluxe is better, that's why you gotta go for the Deluxe burger over the basic one. What are you, trying to starve yourself? Mario Kart 8 Deluxe includes all 48 courses from Mario Kart 8, plus 8 battle courses. But that wasn't enough for Nintendo. Oh no no no. With the Booster Course Pass DLC, from 2022 to 2023, 6 waves of 8 courses each were added, doubling the number of tracks to an astounding 96. 96? That's almost the average age of a member of Congress. No matter which way you cut it, this is a lot of Mario Kart. But was it enough to keep the masses satisfied for 11 years? Don't worry about them, they'll walk it off. So today, in order to give a comprehensive look at Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on every track in the game. All base tracks, all DLC tracks, and all Booster Course Pass tracks. For over a decade, Mario Kart 8 has been the definitive Mario Kart game. And now, I'll be giving my definitive opinion on every bit of it. So, let's get started. We'll begin with the Mushroom Cup, and its first track, Mario Kart Stadium. As far as this game goes, the layout of it isn't anything crazy, but it works well to ease new players into the anti-gravity mechanics. You can't just start off full throttle, you've gotta ease into it. Even so, there's a very fun aesthetic to the course, and the giant stadium at night with the crowds, lights, and fireworks. It feels like a real Formula One track, and it doesn't get tired out no matter how many times you race on it. Next is Water Park, which is a fun and creative setting for a Mario Kart track. I especially like the roller coaster part, which just makes too much sense. It even has the interior section leading up to it that a lot of real roller coasters have. The underwater section is cool, and there's a Wario Ferris wheel too. I don't know how he got that brand deal done, but good for him. I'm also happy to see the Nokis from Mario Sunshine scattered around. Is this on Isle Delfino? If so, Pinna Parks had a massive upgrade since we last saw it. After that, we have Sweet Sweet Canyon, which I have to imagine is based off of the Sweet Sweet Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy. I like how this course splits into two, and this one also has an underwater section, but the water is kind of yellowish, which just looks gross. I guess it's meant to be soda, but as someone who doesn't drink soda, ugh. Lastly, for the Mushroom Cup, there's Thwomp Ruins. This is a really awesome setting, and it's nice to see a track with ruins that isn't related to Donkey Kong. It's great how it gives you the option to drive on the walls in a few parts, which is one of the things that makes Mario Kart 8 unique. For the most part, I'd like to stick to the walls to avoid the thwomps and rolling wheels. There's also a shortcut near the end, which is a bit risky to pull off, but very satisfying when you do. Now it's time for the Flower Cup, which starts with Mario Circuit. Visually, this is probably the most traditional new course in the game, with all the staples of an early area Mario level, including Peach's castle. Her castle is in a lot of different places in the Mario games. Even in this one, it's in multiple different tracks. So do they pick up and move Peach's castle to all these different locations it appears in? Or does Peach have multiple identical castles? But anyway, this is a very twisty course, which really sells the entire anti-gravity mechanic well. I like how the undersides of the track are darker, and seeing Toad Town and the castle upside down really sells it. Overall, this feels like a traditional Mario level translated into Mario Kart 8's world, which is probably why they chose it to be on the cover for the Wii U version. Wait, there was a Wii U version? After that, there's Toad Harbor. One thing I love about this track is that it feels like a real town, which is much more impressive than being some abstract raceway. This course is filled with alternate routes, like the shortcut on the boat in the beginning, going on the top of the tents in the market, the narrower route to the top of the track, the wall you can ride on, the path through the buildings to the left, and there's even another way to the finish line. I like when the courses give the player different paths because it increases the level of decision making and allows for more strategy in what's normally a very randomized kart racer. The many alternate routes combined with the setting makes it one of my favorite tracks in this game. The hills and trolleys makes me think it's meant to be a Mario version of San Francisco. This makes me wonder, is there a Mario version of Alcatraz? Next we have Twisted Mansion, which is very clearly Luigi's Mansion inspired. The music isn't the same, but it is very similar and delivers a properly spooky vibe. All the twisting hallways fit the setting so perfectly, and the concept is well delivered with the back garden and front yard. The only thing I don't get about it is the underwater section. Maybe the basement flooded, which, to be fair, happens a lot with old houses. The last track of the Flower Cup is Shy Guy Falls, another favorite of mine. It's a very serene setting, and I like that you can both see and hear the Shy Guys doing their work. The anti-gravity when you're going up the waterfall is simply perfect, and it's fun to try to hit all the boost pads on the way. There's 2 paths you can take on the way down too, though I don't think one has an advantage over the other. Let's move on to the Star Cup, and the first track, Sunshine Airport. God damn, look how far Isle Delfino's airport has come since Mario Sunshine. It must actually have bathrooms now. This is a setting I really like. I've just always loved airports. How bright and modern they are, the big windows looking out onto the runways, the excitement you feel when going on a trip, and the hustle and bustle of people from all sorts of walks of life gathering in one place. There's a reason Terminal was my favorite map in Modern Warfare 2. This is a track I like a lot, but I actually wish there was more inside the airport and less exterior. I get that launching up and landing like a plane is cool, but to me, inside the building is what makes the course special. But still, I love all the ads for all the other tracks in the game, like their tourist destinations. The Galaxy Air signs and Piantas are back, finally. Afterwards is Dolphin Shoals. You actually start off this race underwater, which is pretty different. There's some very fun elements to this course, like the pipes you can do tricks off of, and the eel, which is fun to try to stay on and do as many boosts as you can. That Mario 64 eel just pops up everywhere, doesn't he? Next we have Electrodome, which is about as far from a departure from a traditional Mario setting as it gets. The music for this course is fantastic, and everything in it seems to bounce to the rhythm. I love how portions of the track will light up as you drive over it, and the pink and green sections that look like part of a guitar are so cool. Finally, for the Star Cup, there's Mount Wario. I'm just gonna tell you now, this is the best course of the game, hands down. This is largely because instead of it being 3 laps that you repeat, it's one giant track divided into 3 sections. You go from the summit of a massive ski mountain to the base, and Mount Wario delivers on this premise so perfectly. You start off being dropped onto the peak from a helicopter, like a real heli-skier. The top feels very isolating, and from there you move on to an icy section that's tricky to not fall off. Next, it's into the cave, which is still a very natural environment, and then into the dam, the technical part. Driving on the side of the dam itself is a ton of fun, and it feels great to hit all the boost pads. From there, you go into the wooded area, because at this elevation, trees can actually grow. There's multiple paths you can take, and the music even changes to reflect the feeling of darting between the trees. This right here is the best part of the best track in the game. Afterwards, you meet the crowds in the skiing area, first with the slalom flags and then the moguls, and then the final stretch to the base, where you arrive at the massive ski lodge resort. The sense of progression in this track is simply unmatched. You go from a lonely summit to massive cheering crowds at the base, a shift that's apparent enough to feel noticeable, but gradual enough to feel natural. This track is Mario Kart at its finest. There's a reason it made it into my top 10 snow levels in video games video, at the coveted number 5 spot. That's above Cool Cool Mountain from Super Mario 64, and just below the snowy area from Death Stranding. What can I say? My taste is diverse. Let's move on to the Special Cup, with the first track, Cloud Top Cruise. The visuals of this course are outstanding. I love the transition from the bright and sunny outside to inside the storm clouds, and how the music changes to reflect that. The giant question mark block with a plant growing out of it gives some deep lore vibes, and who doesn't like racing on clouds? No one. Next we have Bone Dry Dunes. This is a track I always forget about until it comes up. It's just okay. The section where you can drive on the bones is cool, and I like how you go into a giant Bowser skull, but other than that, it's just flat and kinda boring. Afterwards is Bowser's Castle. Every Mario Kart game, well really every Mario game, has to have a Bowser's Castle. This is a fun one, and I like how it's made to look like a real level from one of the 2D games, with obstacles like the rotating fire bars. The giant Bowser punching both sides of the track is a very smart addition, and it's cool to see how it forces you to look far ahead of you and plan out which path is the one to take. The final track of the Special Cup is Rainbow Road. Much like Bowser's Castle, every Mario Kart has to have its own Rainbow Road. And how does this one stack up against all the others? To be honest, not great. I don't hate the course, but I'd rather race on pretty much any other version of Rainbow Road over this one. For whatever reason, I have a hard time staying on the track. I guess the angles of the curves just don't work well for my thumbs. There's some good parts of it though. I like the entire space station aspect. The section with the conveyor belts is cool, and it's clever how which way they're moving will determine which route of the track you end up taking. Now we're on to the Egg Cup, which starts with Yoshi Circuit. This track is shaped like Yoshi, which is really neat. I don't think there's many other Mario characters that they could do that with. Maybe Boo? But that would be pretty boring. This course is very bright and cheery, and the shape of Yoshi's outline does work well as a course. There's very few straightaways in it, which keep things exciting, but I found that for the part with Yoshi's scales on his back, it's easier to just plow straight through rather than try to hit all the curves. After that we have Excite Bike Arena, the first non-Mario track we'll be reviewing. I really like these, and I wish the game had more of them. They're a nice way to introduce some different environments to the game, and make things feel less samey. This course is very basic, just being one loop with 2 long straight segments, but how many hills it has makes it stand out nicely. It's very repetitive, so I probably wouldn't want more than one track like this, but on its own, I think it's a blast. Next is Dragon Driftway. This has to be one of the twistiest tracks, and you stay in the anti-gravity mode for the entire thing. The visuals are very different from most of the other courses, but they still give a very Mario-like sense. This is a track I'm always happy to play, and the fact that the music is so good is another big factor. Lastly, for the Egg Cup, there's Mute City from F-Zero. Oh yeah! I love futuristic city settings in games, and this one is recreated from F-Zero so well. The entire place just looks so cool. The section with all the boosts, one after another, is super fun, and the part where you can see the racers above you is awesome. This track really makes me wish they had included Captain Falcon as a playable racer. There's no good reason we have 15 million Koopalings, but not one Captain Falcon. So let's move on to the Crossing Cup, which begins with Baby Park. I hate this track. It's 7 laps around a boring, tiny oval, which creates chaos without the fun. Most of the time, you can't even tell who's on the same lap as you or not. The entire thing feels very low effort. The music is so annoying. The only good thing I can say about this track is that usually it's over pretty quickly. Next we have Cheeseland. Now, this one is pretty fun. I like the idea behind the environment a lot. It's not the craziest layout in terms of taking advantage of the anti-gravity, but there's enough twists and turns to keep things exciting. Afterwards is Wild Woods, which reminds me a ton of Frontier Village from the first Xenoblade Chronicles. It's such a cool aesthetic, and the village inside the tree looks amazing. The part we drive down the river is awesome too. Really, the entire course is somewhere I want to play a whole game set in. God, these Shy Guys live in some really nice places. Let's move on to the last track of the Crossing Cup, Animal Crossing. Something unique about this track is that it cycles through 4 different seasons, similarly to how the real Animal Crossing games work. I've always thought it'd be cool if it got a little closer to the series though, and tapped into your system clock to give you whatever season it actually is. Maybe in another game. The layout is pretty flat and basic, but if it was all full of convoluted, upside-down madness that's typical in Mario Kart 8, it wouldn't really make sense as an Animal Crossing track. It hits all the points you'd want out of an Animal Crossing-based course. The village, beach, trees, the museum, the various iconic buildings like the town hall and Able Sisters shop, and of course, all the NPCs. They've done a great job of transforming some things as well, like how the coins look like the bells from Animal Crossing, and some of the item boxes being attached to balloons in the sky. One funny thing about the track is how it's based off of New Leaf, which makes it a bit of a time capsule now that so many players first experienced the series with New Horizons. It takes me to a simpler time, back when no one knew what Animal Crossing was besides the core Nintendo fans. The next cup is the Shell Cup, which starts off with Moo Moo Meadows. Classic. This is one of the iconic tracks from Mario Kart Wii. Whenever I think of that game, there's two courses that first come to mind: Mushroom Gorge and this. This track looks fantastic, especially compared to the Wii. It's one of the more basic courses, but still a ton of fun. It's such a pleasant countryside, as long as you can dodge the cows. Getting up to the glider portion is a must, but if you don't make it, it's fun doing tricks off of the burrowing Monty moles. Next we have the GBA Mario Circuit. Of all the retro tracks from the very flat SNES and GBA Mario Kart games, this one's probably my favorite. It has a classic look to it, but there's none of the annoying sharp right angle turns that similar courses have. I like the part of it that raises up into an anti-grav segment, which does a good job of adding something new to the original track. There's a few alternate paths too, like where you can get the glider and by the finish line. After that is Cheap Cheap Beach. The water in this one feels very open, like you could basically go anywhere. The track isn't bad, but there's not much special to it. It's just a standard beach track. I like the inclusion of the crabs from the original Mario Brothers here though. For whatever reason, you don't see them in Mario Beach levels all that much. The last course of the Shell Cup is Toad's Turnpike, a figure-8 loop on a fairly traditional highway. I like the tracks that put you on the road with normal cars. They can be a bit tricky to dodge, but if you want to avoid them entirely, there's walls on the side you can take. However, what's cool is that there's cars that give you advantages, like the ones you can do tricks off of, or some that boost you into glider form. Let's move on to the Banana Cup, with the first track, Dry Dry Desert. This one's just okay. Pretty standard, with not too many interesting parts to it. I like how the Pokies give you loops to drive through if you're feeling daring, but given that the reward is just a coin and not an item block, most of the time it isn't worth it. Then there's Donut Plains 3 from the Super Nintendo. I find it impressive how they kept the old school Mario look to it, but modernized it very well, and even added some inclines and declines to give some variety. It's far from my favorite track in the game, but it's nice. We'll move ahead to Royal Raceway, which is yet another Peach's Castle course. Where is she getting all these? This is another one that feels quite a lot like a real racetrack to me, maybe because the crowd's near the starting line. The entire thing is very pink with the cherry blossoms, and having balloons based off of Peach, Daisy, and Rosalina is a clever touch. Finally, we have DK Jungle, returning from Mario Kart 7. I loved this track then, and I still love it now. It's based off of the fantastic title Donkey Kong Country Returns. Any reference to that game just has to have those falling pillars. I love how the jungle leads you to the Banana Temple, and then there's this shortcut at the end of the course that is risky, but well worth going for if you're able to pull it off. Plus, it's got that classic Donkey Kong Country music. Any level with this music has to be good. It's basically a law of physics. Now we're at the Leaf Cup, beginning with Wario Stadium. This track is super fun. I love how all the obstacles add to the idea of being this big show for the stadium's audience, such as with the Ring of Fire, as if this is really like a monster truck rally. The sideways wall you end up on is cool. The part with all the boosters is a blast as always, and the music is outstanding. It sounds like something out of the 2D Sonic games. After that is Sherbert Land, not to be confused with Sherbert Island from Diddy Kong Racing. Jesus, this game's about to give me PTSD. Based? Rather than being tropical, this course has a very charming winter aesthetic, and the music is absolutely perfect. It has some major alternate routes going on with the drop down to the underwater and all, letting you have a very different experience lap to lap. Next up is Music Park, returning from Mario Kart 7. For some reason, I've always been especially good at this track. I guess the angle of the curves just melds well with where my brain likes to take me. I don't think it's official, but I get the sense that this course is based off of Wii Music. If so, it's probably the only good thing to come out of Wii Music. Either way, this track is awesome. The parts on the piano where all the notes play as you drive on them is so great, and I adore the section with the giant bouncing note because there's so many different ways you can approach it. You can go around the sides and get some tricks off the top, speed right through the middle and likely get crushed, or use the note to your advantage and try to get a boost when he bounces you up. And fitting for a track called Music Park, the soundtrack is fantastic. And even more so than Electrodome, everything seems to bob to the beat. Lastly, for the Leaf Cup is Yoshi Valley from Mario Kart 64. This track is distinctive by the virtue of having a ton of different paths to take to get to the end. Normally when I play it, I tend to stick to one on the left side, which usually works out pretty well, but you have so many choices of where you can go. I don't know if there's an exact optimal route, but it's fun seeing where each path takes you, and it allows you to be strategic. Let's move on to the Lightning Cup, the first track of which is Tick Tock Clock. This track is getting banned in the US pretty soon, so play it while you can. This one is based off the Mario 64 level of the same name, and like its predecessor, it tackles the idea of taking place inside a clock very well. The swinging pendulums are a perfect contextual obstacle, and I love the section where you fly over all the gears, going left and right over them, trying to get in the right spot when you land. Driving around the face of a clock is fun, and you're able to go over the hands to get an item block. But while it is a shortcut, it doesn't seem like one worth taking. Next we have Piranha Plant Slide, which I'm not much of a fan of. There's far too many right angle turns for my taste, and I've always found it hard to get ahead if I fall behind. The underwater and outside sections are fine, but the whole segment underground is one I've gotten no love for. After that is Grumble Volcano. This might be one of the only lava-centric courses that isn't Bowser related. It's a very intense track, thanks in large part to how each lap, more and more chunks of the ground fall away. It can be very tricky to not fall off as you finish lap 3, but doing so makes you feel like a complete pro. There are a few pathways that open up during it, but one is just as dangerous as the other. And finally for the Lightning Cup, there's N64 Rainbow Road. This one is way better than the new Rainbow Road. It's not even a question. For one thing, I don't fall off this one nearly as much, but even aside from that, it's a much more enjoyable experience. I love how the colors look on the track, and with the fireworks and the train flying around and the fantastic music, the entire thing feels like a big celebration. Nothing that crazy happens on it, but it's just a quality course from start to finish. It's no wonder why they picked it for the 8 Deluxe box art. Now on to the Triforce Cup, which begins with Wario's Gold Mine. This one was a favorite of mine from Mario Kart Wii, and it looks awesome here. Come to think of it, a minecart track would have been a perfect fit for Donkey Kong too, but considering this is a gold mine, it makes sense for Wario. This is one of the tougher courses, but really fun. It's exciting the entire way through. Easy to fall off, yes, but satisfying when you don't. There's also a really cool hidden path here through the cave, which makes you feel like an elite gamer when navigating through successfully. Next, there's another Rainbow Road, this one from the SNES game. Now, this is a tough one. It's as flat as it originally appeared in 1992, and equally as unforgiving. Obviously, it's not the most extravagant iteration of Rainbow Road, but it's hardcore, with falling off almost being required. The visuals look very nice though, and when you do manage to do well, you've earned some smugness. Afterwards is Ice Ice Outpost. It's another snow level, but is different from the others thanks to its Arctic expedition feeling environment. One neat thing about it is that it's essentially divided into two paths, green and yellow. They don't take the player to exceptionally different places, but it's still a setup that no other tracks have. But otherwise, it's a pretty basic layout and not particularly exciting. What is exciting though is Hyrule Circuit, game's Legend of Zelda themed track. Hell yeah! It took a few decades, but we finally got Link in Mario Kart and a Zelda-themed race course. This one hits pretty much all the points you'd want out of a Zelda track. You drive through Castle Town, Hyrule Field, into Hyrule Castle, and you get to see the Master Sword. You get that classic Zelda music, and they've even replaced the coins with rupees, complete with their iconic pickup noise. Similarly to the Animal Crossing track, this course is based off of The Legend of Zelda before it was reinvented in Breath of the Wild, so it has a similar time capsule-like feel to it. I'd love to see a track based on the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom version of Hyrule one day, but all we can do is wait and see. There's a lot to the Zelda series, but I think they did just as well as they could have with Hyrule Circuit. Playing it, I can't help but think of all the other things they weren't able to include, like a dungeon or a different biome, or anything related to Wind Waker or Skyward Sword. This track gave me a taste, but there's so much more that can be done with the Zelda-related racetrack. I guess I'll just have to hope they put out Zelda Kart one day. Now let's move on to the Bell Cup, the last cup in the base Mario Kart 8 Deluxe game. First in it is Neo Bowser City, which has an aesthetic that's just way too awesome for any Mario Kart game. I want a Mario game set here. Think about how cool that would be. This is a very fun track, but since it's from Mario Kart 7, it doesn't go nearly as hard into the anti-gravity mechanics as the new tracks from 8 do. And so while I really like it, I can't help but think about how much better it could be if it was an 8 original track. You'd be driving up the sides of buildings, in the sky, all sorts of crazy stuff. After that is Ribbon Road, which shrinks you down and places you in the playset of a kid's bedroom. I love any level that does this sort of thing, and the execution here is outstanding. It looks so much like a real playset. And even though you have to keep your eyes on the road, it's fun to see all the little Easter eggs in the background. There's the box of the playset with Baby Mario in it, Yarn Yoshi, different carts placed around, and even a poster from the Wii U version on the wall. Next we have Super Bell Subway, which has much less urine in it than most subways I've ridden in the past. This track is a bit of a mixed bag for me. I love the station part, probably having to do with all the same reasons I love airports, but I find the part actually inside the subway lines pretty boring. If they wanted to do a subway track, they should have done a whole interconnecting network, similar to Yoshi Valley, like how real subways are. That would have been awesome. And finally for the Bell Cup, there's Big Blue. I'll always say yes to more F-Zero. Like Mount Wario, this is another one where it's one big course divided into 3 sections, rather than 3 repeating laps. And again, I love it. The entire thing feels like a journey to the finish. There's so many awesome parts to it, especially the segment with all the conveyor belts and boost pads. The only semi-negative thing I have to say about it is that it's not nearly as oceany as I'd always pictured Big Blue as being from the SNES game. Not that its environment is bad, it's just different from what I expected. That was all the courses included in the base version of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but we're just getting started. Now it's time to go through the courses included in the Booster Course Pass, a $25 DLC that doubles the amount of tracks. Some are brand new, some are from past games, and some are tracks based on real-world locations that appeared in the mobile game Mario Kart Tour. We've got 12 more cups to go through, so let's get started. First we have the Golden Dash Cup, which starts with a real-world track, Paris Promenade. One cool thing about these destination tracks from Mario Kart Tour is that while they are still 3 laps, the laps themselves change each time. Each one won't be a completely new section of the course, but they are pretty different. Paris Promenade has all the staples you'd want out of a Paris track. The Champs-Élysées, the Arc de Triomphe, and of course the Eiffel Tower. The streets and the buildings all look great, and I love the music they went with. Like I mentioned, the layout changes up each lap, so you're not racing the same thing every time. After that, it's Toad Circuit from the 3DS. This track is very, very basic, but I don't mind that, considering it's essentially the beginner course from Mario Kart 7. It's easy, but I do get a bit of nostalgia for it, so I'm happy to see it back. From there we go to Choco Mountain from Mario Kart 64. It's not too changed up from how it was back then, and it's still got that fog. Looking at it, it's just crazy to think about how far the Mario Kart series has come, and how much it's advanced past what we had on the N64 and SNES. Lastly, for the Dash Cup, there's Coconut Mall, another returning classic from the Wii. This was one of my favorite courses from that game, and while I'm happy it's back, it doesn't look its best. It feels like not that much effort went into porting some of the retro tracks over in the DLC, with Coconut Mall being a prime example. The lighting and the textures are incredibly basic, especially when you compare it to some other new tracks in the game. Plus, they got rid of the Miis that drove the cars outside and replaced them with Shy Guys. Nintendo really needs to end the Mii purge that they've been on in recent years. The people want Miis! Miis, I say! But even though it's not in peak form here, Coconut Mall is still a very fun track. I love jumping off the palm trees and fountains, riding up the escalators, and exploring both stories of the building. I just wish the course was given the love it deserves. Let's move ahead to the Lucky Cat Cup, with the first track, Tokyo Blur. Now, I've never been to Japan, but I have played all the Yakuza games, so I'm basically a local. I don't have too much to say about this track, but I like the layout. And it looks quite nice, though I really picture Tokyo at nighttime when I think of it, so it's different seeing it during the day. Next up is Shroom Ridge, and oh wow, this track is basic. It's blander than raw toast. It's like this was the first Mario Kart track they ever designed. It's just a road in a hilly area that's mildly set in the Mario universe. That's it. It does kind of look like the road that Luigi, Mario, and the Toads drive on to get to the hotel in Luigi's Mansion 3, so I guess there's maybe a cool bit of canon consistency. But even so, this track is more forgettable than my early videos. Afterwards, we move on to Sky Garden, which is essentially Cloud Top Cruise Jr. Look, it even has the Leaf shortcut. It's not a bad track, and definitely more memorable than the last one, but when you put it in the same game as another course that's pretty much superior to it in every way possible, you're not doing it any favors. And finally, for the Lucky Cat Cup, we have Ninja Hideaway, an all-new track. This one is definitely the best of the cup, and has so many different routes you can take, often with major elevation changes. I love driving on the rooftops, and when the Shy Guys pop out like ninjas too. Plus, the music is so good. Next, there's the Turnip Cup, with the first track being New York Minute. Like the other real-life tracks, this one has a ton of changes from lap to lap. So much so that it's hard to keep a concrete memory of what the whole course actually looks like. But it's got some of the iconic New York City landmarks: Times Square, Central Park, Rockefeller Plaza, and the Statue of Liberty. It's also got yellow taxi cabs, but I'm sorry to break the news to the developers, no one uses those anymore. It's all just Ubers and e-scooters now. After that is Mario Circuit 3 from the Super Nintendo. Let me say one thing I don't understand. Why in the original Super Mario Kart were all the courses named the same thing but with different numbers? You had 3 donut plains, 3 Bowser's castles, 3 Ghost Valleys, and 4 Mario Circuits? Why couldn't you have named some of them Luigi Circuit, Toad Circuit, and Yoshi Circuit? It just seems needlessly confusing. Thank God they stopped that trend though. Otherwise by now we'd be on Mario Circuit 31. But in terms of the actual track, this is just embarrassing. Look at it compared to the Donut Plains 3 course from back in the Banana Cup. Donut Plains is redone and looks beautiful. Mario Circuit 3 looks like they only put a budget of $10 into it. I don't care about the graphics in games all that much, but when it looks this bad, I'm obligated to complain. Next, we have Calamari Desert, a classic from the N64. It's still pretty flat, but it's a desert. What do you expect? However, there are some ramps and other bits of elevation to change things up. The track's iconic train looks good, and I find the music oddly calming. And lastly on the Turnip Cup, we have Waluigi Pinball. This track is just awesome. The idea of pinball works perfectly as a Mario Kart course, and the neon visuals are great. So bright and futuristic, in a Las Vegas-y sort of way. The highlight of the track is the big open section in the middle, where you can choose to safely go around the sides and avoid all the obstacles, or take the risk of driving straight ahead to save some time. It's just a course that's all around fun. Moving on to the Propeller Cup, we start with Sydney Sprint, based on Sydney, Australia. To be honest, I have no idea what iconic Sydney landmarks I should be looking out for besides the Opera House. What? It's got the Opera House. Nevertheless, it's still a fun track, with lots of bridges and some interior sections. Also, I'll say, the music is fantastic. Afterward is Snowland from the GBA. This is a charming snow level, without too many frills, but still manages to be a good time. They've added some inclines and declines, which helps vary it up, and the whole thing is decently twisty. Next, there's Mushroom Gorge. God, this one brings back so many memories. As I mentioned earlier, it's one of the first tracks I think of when I look back on Mario Kart Wii. The bouncing on the mushrooms is fun, and the track splits into 2 in a couple of places, which really makes it special. This is one of the wider courses too. I guess guess because it's supposed to be one of the beginner tracks of the Wii game. I don't think it looks quite as nice as it would if it was included in the base Mario Kart 8, but it still looks pretty good. The final track of the Propeller Cup is Sky High Sundae, a brand new one. Of course, this isn't the only dessert-related track, but who doesn't love a second serving? I really like how it feels like a big climb up, then back down a mountain, with a big sundae at the top. It's a fairly basic layout, being one big loop, but it's able to be constantly fun and exciting. There's multiple paths too, if you drop down to the lower section. And the line of ice cream shops around the bottom corner and the freezer box with the bar where the starting light is are some neat touches. Next we have the Rock Cup, beginning with London Loop. It's missing all the football hooligans, but other than that, it captures London pretty well. It's got all the landmarks you'd expect. Big Ben, Trafalgar Square, the London Eye, and Tower Bridge. Plus, red phone booths. Lots and lots of red phone booths. So in terms of giving you London, it's great, but I'm not a fan of the track layout. I like when the course changes up from lap to lap, but I find this one confusing. After that, we go to Boo Lake. A track like this has to be two things: fun and spooky, and thankfully, Boo Lake is both. We've already had a few spooky tracks in the game, but this one being centered around water makes it stick out. They've added some elevation too, which I can appreciate, and the music is perfectly fitting. Next is Rock Mountain. Nintendo really loves their repetitive names, don't they? Sweet Sweet Canyon, the Sweet Sweet Galaxy, Moo Moo Meadows, Cool Cool Mountain, Dire Dire Docks, Cheap Cheap Beach. Okay, I'll give that one a pass. Dry Dry Desert, Ice Ice Outpost, and now Rock Mountain? It's too much. But despite the name, I really love this track. The clouds around you make it feel like you're on top of a mountain. The part where you're gliding above the trees is awesome, and it's fun to keep in the air for as long as you can. Driving up the mountain is a blast as well. Trying to hit the boost while avoiding the rocks is perfectly exhilarating. The last course of the Rock Cup is Maple Treeway, which I have to imagine is based off of the Gold Leaf Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy. Maybe it's just an unrelated autumn level, but I'm gonna look for connections to Mario Galaxy any chance I get. This track is another favorite of mine from Mario Kart Wii. I think I just love anything having to do with giant trees. Launching up to it and then working your way down is so cool, and there's a few hidden paths which are very neat. Let's move on to the Moon Cup, with the first track, Berlin Byways. I'm not too familiar with Berlin, but I do very much like this track. The layout is a lot less confusing than the London one, and the music for it is very fun. If and when I go to Berlin, I'll come back and play this course again to see how accurate it is. Next we have Peach Gardens, returning from Mario Kart DS. This is one that feels like an actual place, like a real part of Peach's castle grounds. It's pretty flat, but for a garden, that makes sense. It's also one of the few tracks that fits having the characters' faces everywhere, with Mario, Luigi, and Peach all being carved into the hedges. Afterwards is Merry Mountain, a brand new Christmas-themed track. This course is so good. It's another up and down a mountain type race, but it works perfectly. It's pretty much the ultimate Christmas Mario Kart track. Christmas trees, presents, snow, the winter village, the candy canes all come together to create one incredibly merry package. The vibes are on. I wish I could live here in December. And finally for the Moon Cup, we have 3DS Rainbow Road. So I'll tell you here now, this is the best version of Rainbow Road. Of course, a big reason for this is that it's 3 sections instead of laps, but it's also what it does with those sections. It delivers on the entire space idea. You're going around planets, driving on Saturn's rings, racing on the moon and bouncing off of craters, there's spaceships everywhere. It's awesome. I also really like how the track itself looks, which is very unlike all other versions of Rainbow Road. The next collection of courses is the Fruit Cup. Dang, I could go for a Fruit Cup right now. The first track of this is Amsterdam Drift. Now I have been to Amsterdam, but my experience there was very different from what's presented here. I did drift though, drifted into another plane of existence. As you'd expect for an Amsterdam course, they've got the windmills and tulip farms. The city that you're racing through has far less canals than the real place though, so I'm surprised they didn't lean into that more. You do go underwater for one segment, but that's about it. Overall, I like this track, but I don't love it. The next track is Riverside Park, which feels much more like a jungle than a park. Even the music is jungly, so this would fit well under the DK branding. It's a good track though, and I especially like the cave section where you take the bridge up and then come out of a waterfall. It feels pretty fresh, but you still have those color blocks placed around to let you know that it's a GBA course. After that we have DK Summit, which is such a fun track. You get launched to the top of a ski mountain and have to work your way down. The part with the moguls is so much fun to get a bunch of boosts off of, similar to Mount Wario. And the part with the half pipe is just perfection. They're so much fun to do tricks off of. It makes me want to mess around with them in a sandbox style Mario Kart game. Ooh! Lastly for the Fruit Cup, there's Yoshi's Island, based off the SNES game, which just happens to be one of the greatest games of all time. That's not my opinion. That's just a fact. Yoshi's Island has a very different style from most Mario games, and they capture that perfectly here. The music, all the enemies, the Shy Guys on stilts, the loop near the finish line, the question mark clouds. They even made the coins look and sound like they're from the game. It's such a fun track that matches the original game incredibly. I'm happy anytime Yoshi's Island gets some attention, and they've done it so well here. Next up is the Boomerang Cup, with the first track being Bangkok Rush. This one is very different from all the European tracks we've seen, so it brings a nice change of pace. I think it captures Bangkok's density well, in part thanks to the fast-paced music. Street food stands are a highlight, and I love bouncing on all of them later on too. After this is DS Mario Circuit. Wow, another Mario Circuit? That's the fourth one so far. But we haven't had a single Luigi circuit. What's up with that? Being another Mario circuit, it's pretty much what you'd expect. It's the standard green grass Mario visuals with Peach's castle in the background. Another one. I do like the darker wooded part though, which is something different. Thankfully, the layout isn't as basic as a lot of other Mario circuits, and the fireball spinning piranha plants are another new element. Next, we have Waluigi Stadium. Wario had his stadium, so it's only fair for Waluigi to get his. Comparing the two, I'd say I like Wario's more, but this is still good. It has some half-pipe parts, with the main one giving you a few options for how you want to get past all the obstacles. The music is fun, and there's some raised up sections that you can get to. Last for the Boomerang Cup is Singapore Speedway. This one shocked me with how good it was. It's honestly probably my favorite out of all the city levels. I like that it's set at night, which gives it a very different vibe. It has a really interesting balance between modern and older Asian architecture, and the part where it takes you high up and into the flying sections is simply awesome. It also switches between the more open and tighter areas in a way that makes you unsure of what to expect next. Now we're at the Feather Cup, with the first track, Athens Dash. This one is different from all the other city tracks, because they really leaned into the Greek ruins. A lot of it takes place around the Acropolis, and I love how they have you drive through the amphitheaters. You do get into the city a bit in the third lap, but otherwise you're pretty much just in the ruins, which are all really well done. Next we have a classic course from Double Dash, Daisy Cruiser. This one has never been my favorite. It's okay, but I'd probably never intentionally pick it to race on. I like the setting, I just think there's more that could be done with it. The part where you go underwater into its aquarium is cool, same with the riding around the pool and the deck, but otherwise, I just don't find it that interesting. After that is Moonview Highway, which is similar to the other highway settings we've already seen in the game, but with a bombastic twist. When riding on it, you'll have to be careful to avoid all the bomb cars if you don't want to get blown up. Now, just how did those pass state inspection? I like the course, largely because it gives a nice contrast between the moonlit road and the very busy city. But I wish there was a bit more of the nature side of it, and it would have been cool if the music changed on it like it does in some of the other tracks. Lastly for the Feather Cup is Squeaky Clean Sprint, which is similar to Ribbon Road in that it shrinks you down. This time has you drive around a giant bathroom. It reminds me of that episode of The Magic School Bus where the same thing happens. This track delivers on the concept so well, having you drive in the sink, on the floor and countertop, and down the bathtub drain. All the objects in the environment fit the theme, and the engagement ring sitting at the bottom of the shower drain is pretty funny. I'd love more tracks like this, and there's so many possibilities for giant environments that they could do. Now it's time for the Cherry Cup, which begins with Los Angeles laps. This one is fine, but feels like a missed opportunity. This track doesn't have nearly as much Hollywood as I'd have expected or wanted. Most of it centers around the beach, but we already have a good few beach levels in the game, so I don't think we need another. There's no driving through film sets, no Walk of Fame, no Hollywood sign. There's Dodger Stadium, which is cool, but besides that, I was left wanting a lot more. Then there's Sunset Wilds from the GBA, and it certainly feels like a GBA track. It's not bad, but very forgettable. We've had enough flat desert tracks in this game, and I don't think we really needed another. Afterwards, we have Koopa Cape, which I have to admit, I always get confused with Rock Mountain. Come on, they're similar. But like Rock Mountain, I enjoy this one a lot. Part driving down the river is super fun, and the underwater glass pipe is just so cool. Plus, they have a few half pipes, which I'm always happy to see. The last track of the Cherry Cup is Vancouver Velocity. I'll be real, I know next to nothing about Vancouver, but this is a pretty good course. It's one of the only city tracks which is snowy, so that's a nice change of pace, and I really like this section in the woods, which feels like a roller coaster. Otherwise, the layout is pretty basic, but it's alright. Now we're at the penultimate cup, the Acorn Cup, with the first track, Rome Avanti. This is another city I've actually been to, and I can tell you that compared to the real Rome, the driving here is much less chaotic. So finally Mario gets to go back to the old country, and this course is one that captures the city well. It's another nighttime track, which is fun, and I really like how there are chain chomps in the Colosseum when you drive through. That's a nice historic reference. After that is DK Mountain, not to be confused with DK Summit from earlier. It's a very windy track, which makes it fun, and the transition from the rock part to the grass like a real mountain is a nice touch. How high up the mountain is so cool, and I love the feeling of anticipation you get when shooting up to the top. I also enjoy the rickety bridge you go over, which gives me some major Temple of Doom vibes. Next we have Daisy Circuit, which isn't amazing, but I do like it a lot more than the Daisy Cruise. It just has a very pleasant feeling about it, and taking place during sunset is a perfect way to match Daisy's orange dress. I also have to call some special attention to the statue of her and Luigi, which might be the only thing in a Mario game that depicts them in a truly romantic sense. Lastly for the Acorn Cup is Piranha Plant Cove, another original track. It has a very cool setting, one that's unlike any other course in the game. It feels like you're driving around a remote part of Hawaii at night, and the underwater ruins give a sense that you're discovering them. So here we are at the last cup, the Spiny Cup, which begins with Madrid Drive. I gotta tell you, all the European cities start to blend together at a certain point. This one's on equal footing with the others, and feels more complete thanks to some very Spanish sounding music. It's just missing a bullfight with a chain chomp. That would have been cool. Next is Rosalina's Ice World from the 3DS. Finally, Rosalina gets a course. I guess the Rainbow Road levels kind of go with her, but I'm happy to see her get some dedication. There's some cool touches, like the part of the Comet Observatory that's there, and the Gateway Galaxy can be seen in the distance. This track has some tricky curves, not unlike Rosalina herself. But one cool thing is how you can actually drive on top of one of them. The path also splits in a few places, and there's an underwater section as well. That water must be freezing. Following that is Bowser's Castle 3 from the Super Nintendo. Wow, if you had told me this was a track from the SNES game, I'd probably have believed you, but I'd still have been impressed. You can tell it's a retro course, but it's one of the better done ones. The entire thing is situated on a curve, which is clever, and I like the section with the really narrow ramps that are tricky to stay on. And the final course for the final cup is Rainbow Road. Once again, this time from the Wii. The 3DS one is still my favorite, but this here is a very close second. It's exciting the entire way through, with multiple routes in a few places. I love this section with the giant holes. You have a few ways to go about them, either jumping over or sticking to the side, each with their own pros and cons. Much like a lot of the other Wii tracks, I'm happy to see this one return. So that was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Prior to making this video, I hadn't played much of it in a while. So some of these tracks I've never raced on before, or maybe just once or twice. The tracks that are original to 8 have a very high batting average, And a lot of the retro courses included in the base game are insanely well done. With the booster course fast tracks, you can tell that there was less budget behind them, but overall they're still impressive. The idea of real world locations in Mario Kart is cool no matter which way you slice it, and it was great to see some of my old favorites return. In the Ask the Developer interview with the team behind Mario Kart World, the game's producer, Kosuke Yabuki, stated they felt that with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, they had perfected the Mario Kart formula. And I'd have to agree. The carts control as smoothly as you could ask for. The graphics look incredible, there's a great lineup of different characters and vehicles to choose from, and there's a collection of amazingly creative and fun tracks to race on. The end of 8 Deluxe isn't just one game getting phased out while a new one takes its place. It's the end of this era of Mario Kart. Every game release, from the SNES onward, was all leading up to this. With Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the ceiling has been reached. In terms of this type of Mario Kart game, this title is the ultimate experience. I know a lot of people wanted a new Mario Kart game to come out on the Switch, but I think with the addition of the booster course pass tracks, there was enough Mario Kart this generation. There's typically only one Mario Kart game per console anyway, and with the fact that so few people got to experience 8 on the Wii U, it made sense to port it over to the next system. So 11 years and 68 million copies later, it's time to move on. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe will be remembered as the pinnacle that it was. Endlessly entertaining, incredibly approachable, and unbelievably popular. For so many years, Mario Kart 8 wasn't just a video game, it was the video game. So before we enter into a new world, it's good to take a look back and be happy that it showed us just how great Mario Kart can be.